Hello there, we're 3Spoonies. We are your hosts, Karen, Claire, and Joe. This is episode 33.5, where we're discussing remote working. Let's get into some questions.
I'm Jane, and I'm an osteopath of a very busy growing clinic. It's growing because I'm supported by the secret weapon for healthcare clinics, Live Link Resource. They're brilliant. They do everything that a practice manager does, and more, but remotely. That's if I had the funds and space for a practice manager in my clinic, which I don't, as I use every bit of space for treatment. I didn't want to manage employees, and I certainly didn't want to pay the pension and the employer's NI and everything that involves. So I have a single invoice that's tax deductible every month, and that's it. Every day I go to the clinic and it's full. Any cancellations have been rebooked, all payments taken, and I'm ready to go. And the patients love the friendly LiveLink team, and I often get many compliments about how wonderful they are. I don't even have to think about emails, insurance, health codes and inquiries. That's all sorted seamlessly for me. LiveLink are the ambassadors for my clinic, my cheerleaders, my support when I need a bit of a boost. They always have my best interests at heart. And I have my life back to spend time with friends and family and do the things I love. The worry and stress have disappeared. I call them my secret weapon, and I'd like to keep them to myself. But they have so many talents, it would be rude not to share them with other osteopaths, physios, podiatrists, and other practitioners. So I'll whisper their name. Live Link Resource. Call them now.
Hi, I'm Karen from Pony Pony Pony.
I'm Joe from Bright Cat Business Solutions.
And I'm Claire from Sparkle's Gift Boutique.
And together we're 3Spoonies navigating our way through life and business with not enough spoons. So this week we are going to be talking about remote working, and we have lots of lovely community questions. Over to you, Claire.
Thanks, we do. We have some really good questions. So our first one is from Danny, and he says, I work for a few different companies and they all have different procedures. I'm currently using Slack, Trello, Monday, and Google Sheets. I find it a bit overwhelming. Is it acceptable to include extra time for all of this in my hours?
I mean,
Yes.
if you're working on them, yes, absolutely. If you're a contractor and you're even answering an email or thinking as you're starting their work, you put in that's in your hours.
Absolutely. That, and if you're working face to face, it would be expected that you'd have a certain amount of training and induction and things at the beginning on, here's our system, this is where this is where you can find that. And that's the equivalent, especially if it's a platform you're not familiar with. I don't think it's reasonable for them to expect you to know how it all works straight off the bat and how that particular company is using it as well. Unless they've specified you must be proficient in X platform, then it's perfectly reasonable for you to take some time to learn that.
I can't add anything to that because I don't use any of them. I'm a good old-fashioned pen and paper person for
I
myself.
think I've used all of those for different clients at the same time, but not all for one.
Yeah. I think there's always a bit of a learning curve. Different things are done differently, and it does depend how it's set up, but also it's perfectly reasonable to ask for them to produce training documents or something like that if they've got a weird way of doing things or particular types of jargon or something else where things aren't where you'd expect them to be and it's not intuitive. It's perfectly reasonable for them to go through at least the reasoning, so then you can kind of understand it and it's easier for you next time.
Perfect, thank you. So our next question is from Krista. She says, I've not actually met most of the people that we work with. I feel like I'm at a disadvantage to people who are office-based in terms of building relationships. How can I make this better?
I think it depends what kind of person you are, if you find this a disadvantage or not. If you're like a peoply person, you'll probably want to get to know them better. As you're remote, If you're actually close to them and can, see if you can arrange a night out and get to know them. If you're not, see if they want to join you online after work to get to know them. Or if you've got sort of meetings as a team and you're all remote on camera, ask to be on camera so you can see them. And that will probably help in connecting with them.
Yeah, and I suppose if like there's an office chat or something, like just make sure you're involved in some kind of way. I've actually got a friend who works remotely and she only goes into the office probably like once every few months. She doesn't have to, but she found it helped her build those connections a bit better with people she works with. And her company do a couple of times a year take them all out for a dinner or some drinks. So if your company does that, try and go along because that does help kind of build those connections.
There also were some useful tools that people used a lot over lockdown that seem to have fallen by the wayside a bit. Like there was a Mozilla virtual environment where you can make yourself a little, not a minifig, a non-Lego affiliated brick person, and you could set up your office so it was laid out the way the office would be, and people's figures would appear in their office space if they were available for you to talk to them, so you could virtually walk over to them and have a quick chat about something. And I thought it was a really nice way of doing it, actually, because it wasn't too high pressure, but it gave you a bit of an idea about them, their personalities, things like that. And you could at least have a bit of a voice chat. So if something like that's available, or I have seen some sort of virtual networking conference type stuff, where again you have an avatar and you can move around. And one of them was done really nicely. So if you moved closer to other people, you could start to hear their conversations as you moved closer. And obviously they could see you coming and stuff, and you'd not have a private conversation in this public space sort of thing, but it allowed people to feel like they were walking up to each other and a bit of a communication during break time or things like that. And it feels more accessible than maybe sending a message and saying, oh, can I message you or something? Because it was there and people would only appear if they were available. You kind of knew, okay, I can pop over and ask a question, have a chat, whatever else.
That's really cool.
No idea.
I would have never appeared. But yeah.
Joe will be like, I'm still here in the corner, bye.
Yep. Leave me alone.
And our last question is from Debs. And she says, I'm usually quite good at balancing work home stuff. Last week, I had an emergency and was out for most of the day. I will catch up, but I didn't tell anyone as it didn't seem a big deal. Should I have told them? I'd say yeah, just so that they know and they're aware. Because if it's not something that you normally do, it could make, I don't know, it might make them look a bit differently at you. It shows they can trust you from working from home by being honest about it. And things do happen and crop up.
Yeah, I would say
We find it working for ourselves. It's not,
if you're employed, absolutely. So yeah, they're aware, they're not going to question anything. If you work for yourself, if nobody's been and asked any questions, no. But if it means there's a delay on somebody's work, just let them know.
Mm. It could also depend the type of emergency as well. Like if it's a medical thing, it might be you're entitled to sick pay or something like that, or it might be something to let them be aware of. But if it's a one-off disaster, like if your boiler exploded, that's probably unlikely to happen as an ongoing thing.
You'd
yeah.
hope.
Yeah, I would hope, but knowing plumber, who can say?
Sounds like my plumber. Anyway, enough about plumbers. But yeah, no, be honest and upfront about it. Most people, if you're working for yourself, will be very understanding. You all know what it's like to kind of work from home. And if you're working for a business, they're going to understand that things do crop up. And you can just be like, this happened, but I am going to catch up on this, just so that they're aware as well. Especially if it's work for a client or something, just keeps everyone in the loop.
Yeah. And everybody's then more open and honest, and it's a better working relationship.
Hmm.
Absolutely. But that is all of our community questions.
So, thank you for joining us, 3Spoonies, on remote working. We'd love to know your thoughts in the comments and any questions you have. If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe for our weekly podcast and leave us a review. You can also buy us a coffee if you like what we do. All links will be in the show notes. We'll see you next week for our next topic on helping disabled people into work. Have a great day and keep track of your spoons.